It's going to be the package from China and maybe the ultimate one. Hey, welcome back to a package from China, because we're going to be doing a little bit of a chit chat about another handheld. And yeah, there are so many of these things out there, it's absolutely ridiculous. However, in this video I just wanted to take a close look at this model called the Game MT, also the Game MT E5 Plus Edition. There is an original one, I completely skipped that one out, and I was thinking, you know, this E5 Plus Edition can be interesting. So when it comes to this particular device, I thought it was an interesting concept because of the wide screen. So it does have like, utilizes everything that we're going to be needing for playing these games. However, is it going to be any comfortable, and how does it actually perform? Because when it comes to playing games, there are so many different ways. To the point, I'm thinking like which one should be the best one for the upcoming years. Because if you're going to be blinking, there's going to be another one. And I think that's going to be the most, let's say, ridiculous situation we're having at the moment. 128GB, and I'm guessing this is the black edition because of the black dot over there. So let's see, what did I actually pick up back in the day. And yeah, I already purchased this like some time ago. And I can tell you that this thing looks kind of cool. And I think the widescreen, it looks like you're having a small telephone or smartphone slapped to a controller. That's actually how it looks. So this thing is absolutely weird, I can tell you that. And the way how they configure this is just interesting. Having dual speaker over here, we're having the back buttons. But first let's check the back buttons. They're okay. I think one of the weirdest thing is like when you're going to be looking at the way how they created this. So first of all, when you're going to be looking at the difference, there's not a lot of difference with these very smooth, let's say orange looking buttons. And the resistance, it's a little bit too sturdy when it comes to micro switch. We're having volume control, here we can just turn it on. And then of course we're having the ABXY, and the buttons are a little bit bigger than normal when you're having like a lot of these devices, and they have like an okay travel. And when it comes to the joysticks, I must say that I like it, and this for the simple reason, because I have like a little bit of an Xbox 360 layout that I personally love. The M button, and the M is most of the time for the menu. Over here having another two buttons, then to select and start. And of course we're having a tiny stand. That is a little bit El Cheapo, but yeah, it's what it is. But the idea is actually, if you're going to be looking over here, we're having two SD card slots, headphone jack. We're having here over here two USB-C and HDMI. So what you can do is just put it there, and you can just actually, yeah, you know, like put it and use it like a game console. But what happens if you're going to be booting it up without any SD cards whatsoever? I'm really curious, because there was nothing on it. So I'm guessing there is an internal storage device, and that is interesting because you don't see that very often anymore. Most of the time everything firmware is going to be put on an SD card, and this thing utilizes two SD card slots, and there is no SD card. Okay. So when it's going to be booted up, this is what we're getting. So I'm guessing that there is nothing much going on. Nope. It's actually based on some Android, which you can see over here. We do have like some different apps, even having the Play Store. Then we're having different emulators that have been preset, but nothing is going on over here. Main, PlayStation 1 and 64. And these are like the different kind of systems we can just get out of the box. So the D-pad, didn't mention that before, where this thing is interesting when it comes to that. I must say this thing is not comfortable at all. Way too sturdy when it comes to the resistance. And this is not going to be an overall pleasant experience. However, I'm glad to put the joystick in this position because we're going to be using it like this. It's very comfortable. I must say that is one of the things that, yeah, it's really comfortable when it comes to the size. It's a little bit wide, but I like it. So moving on to the SD card. So they have the special Game MT SD cards. I implemented over there, and that's it. Like, you're ready to go, and you can add your games there. However, you can see that we do have all kinds of different games now that we can actually play. But what I'm really curious about is like, what can we play and how does it work? We're starting off with some old school games, and to see how the overall D-pad configuration is it really that bad that it feels? Let's find out. Man, this thing sounds absolutely crazy. So audio-wise, I must say that the two speakers are doing a great job. We can put in a credit by pressing the T over here, or actually select. The M will give you the menu between. So here you can exit the game if you want to, and no, you don't have a touchscreen if you wonder. It actually does run on some of an Android. I know like some people don't really like it, but the simple reason is that these things can have a little bit of input lag, or at least people do claim. So far I don't really notice anything. So I already can tell you that this is going to be an handheld I'm going to be playing, particularly with, let's say, the analog stick. The analog stick is really sensitive. So the overall D-pad, I must say, I really need to get used to it, because this thing is super sturdy. The resistance of the D-pad is not going to be the best thing. They did implement some weird filter, so that's another thing. Well, so when it comes to the overall gameplay, it seems to be all fine. It's a little bit of a downside that we don't have any aspect ratio going on. We can exit over there, and then it will automatically load into, let's say, the menu. Pressing right, we can actually go to a different game, or at least like skip through the menu itself. We do have a little bit of a loading time every single time you're going to be loading up a game. But the reason I wanted to check out quickly the Breaker game, because I just wanted to see how the overall D-pad will respond, where this thing has such a crazy amount of resistance. Okay. Yeah, I was afraid of this. It's also a little bit of a handicap because I cannot get any moves out. I really need to get used to it. And this is just all to do with the freaking D-pad. But the analog stick is very short traveled, so you can do some moves very quickly. But I'm not used to it. There we go. So for fighting games, the D-pad is absolutely a big thumbs down. So this is going to be a device that's going to be great for PlayStation Portable due of the screen they're actually going to be using in here. But the question of course remains, what can we do with the menu? So in here we're going to have the option to go to settings. frame skipping set to 3. That's absolutely insane. But let's see what's going on over here. Can we actually show the frames per second? Let's see how it actually performs. They also messed up the button layout. Okay, just wanted to check if the D-pad does do anything. But beside that, when you're going to be looking into it, let's say do in save. Also, this is messed up. The D-pad isn't configured correctly. Let's see if we can fix that issue. It's kind of weird because it is actually set up inside of the menu. And you know, that is a weird situation. D-pad, it actually showcases that there isn't D-pad set up. Okay, but it was not set up correctly. D-pad down. Oh crap, no. Oh man, that doesn't matter. D-pad right, okay. Let's see what happens. I think I can actually go back. Thank you. Ah, that's it. Okay, several. No, I don't want to cancel the save. Yeah, I want to keep it safe. So that was another fix, quick fix here. So you can really see that stutters, and yeah, like having set to 3 times skipping, it's absolutely insane. Oh, I completely forgot to fix actually the issue of the D-pad. Okay, we can actually return to the select mode. Like I mentioned before, like the D-pad has been fixed now, but still the A is not actually, you know, the X button needs to be over here. As a gamer of the PlayStation, a lot of games, a little bit confusing, but let's get into the game. And I think this is going to be absolutely awesome to play PlayStation Portable. However, it's a little bit underpowered when it comes to that, so let's get into the game.
Round 1.
Let's see how it's going to be performing. Okay, so far so good. Oh man, all of the buttons are in a completely different place. Everything is messed up. All of the button layout. There we go, that's the button I was searching for. But I'm still KO. But so far everything seems to be running fine. That makes me wonder, is everything set to 3 times resolution or something wickedness or whatever they did with the settings. So I already was been messing around with it, and they have been set to frame skipping 3 times. I already set it to off. I just wanted to see what is happening. So we can also put this on 1-time PSP. And in this way we can just do a little bit of tweaking. Because some of the games, like this particular one, it's not going to be really demanding. And as you can see, that seems to be working fine without the crazy dips. So let's move to the another game, the TNT races. I'm going to be doing a little bit more testing of the PlayStation Portable, and the simple reason because I think it's such an overall cool platform for this particular device. So far no problems with making saves and everything else. But let's get into the game and let's see how it is going to be performing and see if we can actually play this game. But so far everything seems to be working fine, where this is absolutely not a super difficult game to emulate. And of course we can also start tweaking. But I just is actually like speeding it up, as it's been still enabled. But so far, so good. And again, you can go to settings, you can go to frame skipping, set it on if you have any problems, or even go into some other stuff like having 2 times resolution. See what happens then. But with a simple game like that, I was not really surprised at having any problems whatsoever. So then is the question, of course, if you're going to be having more difficult games, will it have like a similar result? So moving to another favorite game of mine of the PlayStation Portable is Twisted Metal Head-On. So at the moment what they did is actually putting it on the resolution frame skip set to off, and then we're having 2 times the resolution. So that seems to be a great configuration for the simple games. But let's see if you're going to be just playing some more demanding games. I really hear some stutter going on. Of course, then I also can lower it if you want to the 1-time resolution, or just say, hey, we're going to be implementing frame skip. That is something we can always mess around with, but so far out of the box, yeah, the stuttering was actually what I did with the speeding up. So let's see if it's going to be a comfortable situation. Let's see if we have acceleration. There we go. So far it seems to be all working fine. But it looks absolutely stunning on 2 times resolution. So again, like the reason I tested out a couple of these games, I just wanted to see what's going on and how do they overall perform. Of course we can go in further mode like we're having some God of War, but then it's going to be really challenging and we're going to be having some problems. That is one thing for sure. We keep on testing where there are so many different games to test out. But yeah, it struggles. Yeah, it does struggle now. Let's get into the gameplay. But yeah, with some minor hiccups, does seems to be working with the 2 times resolution. There we go. Woohoo! And again, what you can always do is getting into settings and mess around with it to tweak it a little bit. Stutter, stutter, stutter. Oh yeah. So where this device is actually pretty cool for PlayStation Portable. It doesn't have like 100% support. Already set to frame skip 1 time. I'm really messing around with, let's say, the overall, resolution. So this is, in my opinion, an unplayable situation. I cannot really enjoy God of War. So if this thing had more power, we can really enjoy yourself some God of War. And if you want to make a quick save, quick load and stuff like that, we can just do that over here. But let's try out some N64, because that's of course a more difficult emulation situation. We do have like crazy widescreen shenanigans and no way of actually, nope, setting that in a different mode. So that's quite unfortunate, and I think that is one of those downsides when it comes to these devices. There is always something that they mess up, but I did hear a lot of stutters in the beginning, so let's see what's going on. So far everything has been mapped when it comes to the joystick. This is not the most demanding game, but still it's going to be a lot of fun. Snowboard Kids, what a cool game this is. I played it back in the day so much that I cleared the full game. I still remember, if you're going to be finishing it, you're getting this like white and black ninja guys that were like super over the top. Such a cool, let's say, overall game. But let's see what's going on. And so far, emulation wise, yeah, it's great. And of course you're going to be having the benefit of having a very nice joystick, because you need to make these sharp corners, and you're going to be needing a great overall, let's say, a joystick for this, otherwise the game is completely unplayable. So at that point, yep. And so far, no problem whatsoever. So let's make a save over here. And there we go. Can I do this trick itself? Man, I forgot how to do tricks. Seriously. Of course, we're going to be trying some PlayStation 1 on native resolution. Yeah, it's going to be having a sweet tooth moment. There's even a show nowadays. That's kind of cool. So let's try the D-pad with this. It is playable. Let's put it that way. Let's see how the controls are. Can we actually shoot? Yeah, it's playable. I think what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that it's a quite, let's say, comfortable device. So think of this wide, crazy, let's say, size. But the point is like, but I do notice like when you're going to be playing this game and you need to use the joystick for acceleration. I tried it a lot with D-pad, mostly because you're going to be accelerating, braking and steering at one freaking, let's say, D-pad or joystick in this case, and it can be quite challenging. And now I do have a little bit of a hate against this joystick. But emulation performance wise, yeah, this is just fine. Another system that is still widescreen shenanigans, but it's less noticeable in my opinion, that is going to be some Game Boy Advance. You don't really want to play Game Boy Classic in it because it's going to be looking really hideous. They did implement a filter. That is one thing, you can see that it is less pixelated. I do have a feeling that it stutters a little bit now and then. See, that's what I mean. It's kind of weird when it comes to that. Of course, the ultimate audio test, so let's crank it up. Maximum volume. Alright, here we go! That was a little bit too much. I would not recommend doing it at AM because it's going to be killing my speakers, but sounds weird. It looks widescreen, craziness. No, it doesn't sound right. You can hear with the punching. For me, that's my first go-to test. So playing fighting games is a horrible situation, but for beat 'em ups, So again, the joystick is absolutely the savior for the device. Otherwise, if the looks like would be horrible, this game would be completely unplayable. But the music is off, and that is absolutely a big disappointment. But what is kind of cool is if you're going to be plugging it into the device, it automatically detects the monitor itself. So this way, it looks cool. You can actually play this on this big screen. So the general idea of this system is that we can just use this thing as a plug-and-play Android device. And they did an okay job. I have some weird thing going on when it comes to the input. I do use a OTC dongle. But let's boot up and let's see how they actually perform when it comes to controller in game. You know, I'm always using an Xbox 360 controller because, let's be honest, that's one of the best ones to actually get. Oh, what did I do? I have no idea. Did I do that? I pressed the button. I think I messed it up. But let's see. Let's boot it up. Let's see if I can even do anything, because it really responds very strangely in the game. Oh, it's all inside of my mind. Can we just do anything about it? Come on. There we go. 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 You can see a stutter. So performance-wise, the control, I think it's not the controller, it's just the system itself that is just doing weird things. And this is automatically my return button. Okay, weirdness. But let's just play a game of the Super NES. And the reason why I just wanted to see if there's any weirdness going on, but so far everything seems to be working great. I think that has to do with the USB hub I was actually using. Feeling a little bit stuttering situation. Still, the game MT5 Plus is such a weird device. It is comfortable. The D-pad, I freaking hate this thing about that. But when it comes to the analog stick and the configuration of it, it's absolutely awesome. However, this is actually made for playing PlayStation portable games, or at least how it feels. It's very limited, it runs through Android, and this can be so much more. Particularly when you're going to be looking into the aspect ratio and stuff like that. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think of this weird looking phone attached controller thingy. It would be great to see you in the next video. And of course we're going to be testing the God of War. Can I speed it up? Oh yeah, I can speed it up. And let's speed up this process. Yeah! That's when I love this button. The only weird thing is that I don't have any frames per second meter, so that's kind of bummer. Because I did enable that. So next thing we're going to be doing is setting this up to frame skipping 1 already. That has been set to there. So let's see, 1 times PSP. And where's my frames per second? Let's do the filtering to just off. And let's see what happens if we're going to be doing that. Frames per second, continue. And let's see if we can just skip the freaking intro. Because I've seen it like a gazillion times now. Let's see how it will perform on the device itself. You want to turn it off? Yes, I want to, but it doesn't. Because this freaking thing doesn't turn off! Of course I'm joking, of course, but let's try it again. Can we switch it off? Can I switch it off? Yeah, no, I can't. Why does this thing doesn't switch off? That's a freaking nightmare. Can we just hold it? I think I can. Yeah, it shuts off.